sparkled under the California sun, white drapes fluttering like silent whispers of gossip. Designer heels crunched against the gravel pathway, and glasses clinked in soft background music. Everyone looked polished. Everyone but me. I barely made it through the buffet line when I heard her voice. Oops. Ice-cold soda splashed down the front of my pastel silk dress, soaking it in one humiliating second. The gasps were sharp. I froze, chest rising. The liquid stuck to my stomach like shame. Brielle grinned, still holding the half-empty cup, her manicured fingers trembling just enough to feign innocence. Wow, Ava. Guess now your dress finally matches your worth. Laughter bubbled behind her. Some chuckled awkwardly, others turned away. No one stepped in. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us, where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. My hand clenched into a fist. I glanced down at my stained bodice. Orange soda. Bright. Sticky. Undeniable. I didn't cry. I wouldn't give them that. Brielle tilted her head. You okay, cousin? You look like someone who wasn't even supposed to be invited. I opened my mouth, but a louder voice boomed from the tent entrance. Ava. Head snapped toward the voice. A man in a tailored black suit stood near the entrance. Sharp jaw, darker hair slicked back, and behind him, a black luxury SUV still humming. It was Cameron Knox, the billionaire tech CEO. Every phone in the tent might have buzzed with articles about him this morning. Every woman probably imagined being next to him, but he wasn't here for them. His eyes landed on me, soaked and humiliated. Then he stepped forward. Fast. I've been calling you for the last hour, he said, his brows drawn low. I blinked. Everyone stared. Cameron reached me and pulled off his blazer, wrapping it around my shoulders like a shield. The tailored scent of cedarwood and power wrapped around me like armor. What happened? He asked, deadly calm. Brielle stammered behind me. It was an accident. Cameron's voice cut through like a blade. Was it? Silence. He turned to me again. Come. I'm not letting my wife stay in this circus for another second. Wife. That word cracked through the air like thunder. The tent went dead silent. Brielle's face turned pale. Her mother, Aunt Valerie, dropped her champagne glass. My uncle stiffened like someone just slammed a courtroom verdict onto the table. I'm sorry, what? Brielle asked, stepping forward. I said, Cameron turned, locking eyes with her. She's my wife. As in married. As in legally. As in, you just assaulted a billionaire's wife in front of 70 witnesses. Someone choked on their drink in the corner. My lips parted, not out of fear, but from the sheer shift in energy, from being the stain-covered joke to the lightning rod of silence. Cameron's hand wrapped around mine. Ava. Let's go. And we walked, past gasps, past frozen expressions, past people who once mocked me and now wouldn't even look me in the eye. Brielle's voice followed, desperate now. You're lying. She's lying. She's not his type. Look at her. Cameron stopped, turned around slowly. She's not my type? He scanned the guests like they were nothing more than irrelevant footnotes. She's my entire life. Then we left. The moment the car door shut behind me, the silence in the back seat was thick. Cameron didn't start the engine. Not yet. His hands were still clenched on the steering wheel, his jaw tight like he was trying to suppress rage, the kind of rage people like him didn't show publicly, but I'd seen it. And I knew this wasn't about soda. You didn't tell me she'd be there, he finally said, low and cold. I blinked at him, still stunned from the chaos we just walked out of. I didn't think she'd do that. He turned to face me fully, eyes burning. She humiliated you, Ava, in front of everyone. That wasn't a joke. That was targeted. She planned it. I didn't answer right away. The hurt was lodged in my throat. I could still feel the cold soda soaking into my skin, and worse, the sound of their laughter, like a knife twisting into old wounds. She's always hated me, I said quietly. Ever since we were kids. I was the mistake. The one who never wore designer. The one who never had a dad around. Cameron's jaw twitched. And now you're my wife. Which means she just mocked my name too. I shook my head. Cam, I don't need you to fight this for me. He leaned in, slowly. You don't need me to. But I will. And I'll do it my way. That tone in his voice, it wasn't loud, but it was dangerous. The SUV roared to life, and he turned the wheel with precision as he pulled away from the gravel driveway of the estate. My family stood in stunned silence in the rearview mirror, like statues. Where are we going? I asked. He didn't look at me. To fix this. 20 minutes later, we weren't at his mansion. We weren't in a penthouse or private suite. We were parked in front of the Ledger, the top tabloid in LA. You're not serious, I said, heart racing. Oh, I'm very serious, Cameron said as he turned off the ignition. They want stories. Let's give them one. He stepped out and came around to open my door. By the time I stood beside him, I noticed 2 reporters already walking down the sidewalk, recognizing him, whispering, taking out their phones. Cameron reached for my hand and kissed the back of it in slow motion, deliberately, like we were royalty. Then he looked directly at the cameras. This woman, he said loud enough for them to hear, stood by me when I was nothing but code and coffee. And today, someone tried to make her feel small. His gaze turned icy. But no one humiliates my wife and walks away untouched. The flashbulbs exploded. And just like that, the headlines would write themselves. Billionaire CEO defends wife against family bullying. From soda stain to crowned queen, the untold story of Ava Knox. That night, we sat quietly in our living room, city lights glowing through floor-to-ceiling glass behind us. I wore one of his oversized hoodies, hair still damp from the shower. My phone buzzed. Text from Aunt Valerie. We didn't know you were married. Why didn't you tell us? Another buzz. Brielle. It was just a joke. You're blowing it out of proportion. Cameron walked past me and saw the messages. He didn't say a word. Just reached down, took my phone, and tossed it face down onto the couch. Then he knelt in front of me. His voice was calm, controlled. You're not going back there, Ava. I'm done watching you bleed for people who've never once cared whether you lived or not. Tears welled in my eyes, but not from sadness, from the shift, from the realization that, for once in my life, I was being defended, protected, treated like I mattered. I don't want revenge, I whispered. I just want to stop feeling like I need to prove myself to them. Cameron nodded slowly. Then let's rebuild something they'll never be able to touch. He pulled me into his chest, and I felt something inside me begin to snap free, like old shackles falling off my heart. That was the night everything changed. That was the night the world stopped calling me trash and started calling me Mrs. Knox. It didn't take long before the headlines exploded. The next morning, I woke up to my name trending, not just on gossip sites, but on business sites, on network channels, on podcasts I used to listen to in my tiny studio apartment. The woman beside the empire, meet Ava Knox. Billionaire CEO Cameron Knox steps out with secret wife, and the internet's obsessed. Bride bullied at wedding? Family drama unfolds after soda incident goes public? My inbox was chaos. Interviews, public relations managers, stylists, brands I'd never even heard of. Cameron had gone to the gym by the time I rolled out of bed and wrapped his hoodie around myself like armor. The place still smelled like him, like pine, espresso, and something untouchably expensive. But I didn't feel powerful. I felt exposed, and somewhere under it all, a bit hollow. Because no matter how good the world made me look now, none of them ever really saw me before. They only saw Cameron. And now, the same family who used to humiliate me? They were all reaching out. My phone buzzed again. This time, a voice message from Brielle. Look, I know things got out of hand, but I didn't mean to actually upset you. It was a joke. You know how we are. Besides, you looked amazing in that article. I stared at the screen. A joke? They laughed while I stood there soaked in soda, humiliated like some prop in their cruel play. And now, it was a joke? The door opened and Cameron walked in, sweat on his shirt, hair still damp. His gaze flicked to my face instantly. What happened? I just handed him the phone. He listened, lips pressing tighter with each word. Do you want me to respond? He asked quietly. No, I whispered. I will. That afternoon, I agreed to one interview. Just one. And I didn't clam up. I wore a plain gray top, my hair tied back. I wanted them to see me, not the version they expected. The real Ava. The interviewer smiled as the cameras started rolling. Ava, a lot of people are calling you the modern Cinderella. What would you say to that? I smiled tightly. I'd say Cinderella didn't build her own business before meeting the prince. She blinked. Oh? I nodded. I launched a digital marketing firm from my one-bedroom apartment 3 years ago. I didn't have help. No inheritance. I worked full-time while finishing night school. Cameron invested after seeing my third pitch deck. Not because he felt sorry for me, but because the numbers made sense. There was a pause. Then the interviewer leaned in. So, the wedding incident? Was that the first time you experienced that kind of treatment from your family? I didn't even flinch. No, I said simply. But it was the first time the world saw it. The silence was powerful. I continued. See, when you grow up being treated like the burden, you start to believe it. But that doesn't make it true. It just makes it comfortable for the people who benefit from your silence. And I saw it. The way the crew behind the cameras stopped pretending to check their gear. They were listening. I don't need revenge, I finished. I just want girls like me to know you don't have to stay where you're not seen. Later that night, I got a call from my mother. I stared at the screen. I hadn't heard her voice in months, not since she called me a waste of potential for skipping a cousin's engagement to meet a client in San Diego. Cameron walked over and saw her name flashing. You don't owe anyone anything. I answered anyway. Ava, she said immediately, all sunshine and sugar. I saw the interview. Honey, you looked beautiful, and so strong. I didn't respond. She continued. I was thinking, maybe we could have you speak at the family brunch this weekend. You know, to celebrate you. Brielle will be there. She wants to apologize in person. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I spoke clearly, my voice steady. You want me to be the headline, not the family, just the attachment to the real story. Ava, I'm not coming, I said, and I'm not your prop anymore. Then I hung up, and something inside me settled, not with fire, not with fury, but with peace, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be seen. I was. 2 days later, the invitations came, handwritten, glossy, laced with fake sincerity. You are cordially invited to the Monroe family brunch, in honor of Ava Knox. In honor of me? The same girl they once made clear didn't belong? I held the card in my hand, staring at the gold ink lie. Cameron watched me from across the living room. You're not going, he said firmly. I shook my head. Oh, I'm going. His brows lifted. Seriously? I nodded. but not to forgive them. I'm going to end this. Properly. The brunch was held at Brielle's fiancé's estate in Beverly Hills. Tall hedges, marble steps, servers in white gloves. Same crowd, same whispers. But this time, I didn't walk in alone. Cameron held my hand. I wore an elegant navy gown, not flashy, but strong. I looked nothing like the girl they mocked. And that was the point. "Ava, you made it," Aunt Valerie said, hugging me like she hadn't spent years pretending I didn't exist. I smiled politely. "Of course." Brielle appeared next, holding a glass of champagne. "Hi, cousin," she said sweetly. "I meant to text you earlier." "You mean besides the joke?" Her smile twitched. "You know I didn't mean it like that." Cameron's gaze narrowed, but I gently placed my hand on his chest. "Let me. I'm just glad you showed me who you really were." Publicly, I added. People nearby turned quiet. Uncle Harold tried to change the subject. "Well, we're all proud of you now, Ava. The family's thrilled." I turned to face him. "You weren't proud last month when I asked for help covering Mom's medical bill. You said I should get a better job." He stiffened. I stepped closer, voice calm but clear. Funny how worth changes when the cameras show up. The air froze. Brielle looked like she wanted to disappear. That's when Cameron leaned in and said loud enough for everyone, "Good thing she doesn't need this family's approval anymore. We just closed a deal this morning. Ava's company is now valued at over $10 million. Gasps. Eyes widened. Chairs creaked. And then silence. I looked around. Same people. Same whispers. But none of them could look me in the eye now. I smiled gently. "Thanks for brunch." Then I walked out, head high. And this time, they were the ones left speechless. A week passed. No calls. No texts. Just headlines and silence. The Monroe family didn't try again. Not after the brunch. Not after the world saw what they really were. Polished on the surface, hollow underneath. Cameron and I were back in our rhythm. Quiet mornings, deep conversations, late-night tea over business plans. But one morning, while reviewing proposals, I got an email. Subject: Speaking invitation. Stanford Women in Leadership Summit. Message: We'd be honored to have you share your journey. Your voice matters. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Not because of the invite, but because just 6 months ago I wouldn't have believed anyone wanted to hear from me. Back then, I was just Ava, the overlooked cousin, the +1 to life events, the girl they poured soda on to remind her of her place. Now, I was a name, a story, a force. I looked over at Cameron sitting barefoot by the window reading. Calm. Steady. He caught me staring. "What's up?" "I think I'm ready," I said. He smiled. "To speak?" "To own it," I said. "All of it. The past, the pain, the rise." He stood and walked over, brushing a loose hair behind my ear. "You always owned it, Ava," he whispered. "You just stopped letting them rewrite your story." I nodded, and for the first time, I truly believed it. The next month, I took the stage at the summit. Lights shining, crowd waiting. I took a deep breath and began. I wasn't always the woman you see today. I was once the family disappointment, the mistake. I was poured on, laughed at, and left out. The room stilled. But I learned something they didn't expect. I didn't break. I built, I scanned the crowd. Young faces, old faces, women who had once been invisible like me. They called me worthless. But now they call me by my full name. I smiled. Ava Knox, founder,